Rather than being a problem that needs to be solved, anxiety might actually be an inevitable part of life that everyone will experience. That's what existentialists would say anyway. And perhaps somewhat ironically, anxiety isn't something that we aim to perhaps eliminate like we have done here in New Zealand with the coronavirus, but it might be something we need to learn to live with instead. In 1844, Danish philosopher Søren Kierkegaard wrote, "Whoever has learnt to be anxious in the right way has learnt the ultimate." What you may be experiencing in these coronavirus times might be something that feels different, deeper, and beyond perhaps our usual fear or anxiety about day-to-day troubles. This feels more existential. So what do I mean when I say existential, or existential anxiety, or an existential crisis?
We believe Lisa is suffering from environment-related despair.
Oh, it's even worse when you know it has a name.
Well, this usually means feelings of unease about meaning, choice, and freedom in life. Whatever you call it, the main concerns are the same. That the idea is that life is inherently pointless, that our existence has no meaning because there are limits or boundaries on it, and that we all must die someday. Well, that sounds pretty bleak, but it's not an uncommon experience. It's just that we don't talk about it very much, and when we do experience it, we feel like we might be alone in our experience, so we keep it covered up. But an existential crisis can often occur after a major life event, such as a career or job change, the death of a loved one, a diagnosis of a serious or life-threatening illness, or perhaps reaching a certain age milestone such as 40, 50 or 65, experiencing a tragic or traumatic experience, having children, divorce, or for some people even marriage. For existentialists, an existential crisis is considered to be a journey, an awareness, a necessary experience, and a complex phenomenon. And it comes from an awareness of your own freedoms and how life will end for you one day. And that journey may reveal to us that where there was structure and familiarity before, now there is mystery and unfamiliarity and a sense of discomfort and feeling like somehow things don't fit so well anymore in our understanding of what life is about. Where there was certainty, there is now uncertainty and unpredictability, meaning that we need to find our way again in a place and time that feels unfamiliar to us. What served us well as navigation points in our lives perhaps don't serve us as well anymore, and we find ourselves wondering what happens now without much of a way of a script to help us. And I think that this coronavirus journey is having an impact on us, whatever stage of the journey that we may be at, whether we are talking about personal journeys or journeys of whole countries or regions of the world. Now contrast this with the certainty that was offered and based in action during alert levels 4 and 3, and the communications based on phrases like team of 5 million here in New Zealand. And this is evidenced in research that when we connect, especially in collective action, this can protect against the impact of disasters on our mental health and also increases our sense of agency, of being able to influence the world. But now things feel different, with New Zealand almost being an outlier on the world stage, and our geographical remoteness and the fact that it's actually logistically hard to get here right now, even if you wanted to, and it's also hard to leave too. That can contribute to this sense of isolation, collective loneliness, and lead us to question, what meaning was there in this collective action if we're left with uncertainty now? But others elsewhere in the world are struggling with uncertainty too, but what the parameters of what they're struggling and are uncertain about are different. In many places in the world, you may be uncertain about the coronavirus itself, how it's tracking, whether it will continue to spread, and whether you or yourself and whether you or your loved ones may fall ill with it, or worse. In New Zealand, perhaps we are lucky that we don't have to worry so much about community transmission, not forgetting the hard work and sacrifice to get the country into this position. But there is perhaps a gap that's been left that we're struggling to fill. It's not so much the presence of COVID-19 that presents New Zealand with our greatest challenge, but the absence of it. One thing I have heard people talk about as they get to grips with their journey through the crisis, no matter if they're in New Zealand or in many other places in the world, is that they're actually realizing what may be important in their lives. The basics like health, relationships, a safe and warm place you can call home, dignity, freedom from persecution and discrimination, being able to feed yourself and pay the bills. So an existential crisis might move you towards authenticity, which may also bring about anxiety too as you struggle for meaning. Now that the familiarity of your life has been stripped bare, what is your life about now? You might have thoughts about the fleetingness of your existence and how you're living it whilst you're still here. When you stop taking for granted that you will wake up each day alive, you might experience anxiety, but at the same time, deeper meaning too. It's actually two sides of the same coin. And it's because of this, each of us must find a way to live with this anxiety rather than try to eliminate it. Experiencing an existential crisis can also be positive. It can guide you to question your purpose in life and help provide direction. So, is there a way to make an existential crisis a positive experience for you or someone you love? Well, perhaps. Try these 3 things to help you to start to understand your journey. Number 1, write it down. Can you let this existential anxiety motivate you and guide you towards a more authentic life? What can this anxiety teach you about your relatedness to the world? Pull out a notebook and jot down the thoughts on these questions, and it's in the answers to these questions that you may find how to cope with an existential crisis. Number 2, seek support. Talking with loved ones about your existential anxiety can help you gain a different life perspective and remind you of the positive impact you've had on their lives. Ask them to help you to identify your most positive and admirable qualities. And if you feel like that might be difficult for you, then you can find a trusted and qualified mental health professional instead and perhaps reflect with them on what's troubling you. Number 3, you can also try meditation. Meditation can help you to reduce negative thoughts and help prevent anxiety and obsessive worry linked to an existential crisis. In the end, the process of perhaps learning to live with this anxiety should possibly be framed as adaptation rather than recovery. And I think that might be a good way for people to think about this, because adaptation means being able to constantly move as conditions change. And I think it's preferable than trying to recover to some imaginary fixed point which may or may not happen. Hey, feel free to share this video with someone else you think might find it useful, and maybe try watching this video next if anxiety is something that's troubling you right now. Thanks for watching today, and make sure to subscribe for more videos again soon.